Welcome to the Women Living Well After 50 podcast. I'm Sue Carrick, and I'm passionate about inspiring, motivating, supporting and informing women over 50 to embrace this exciting time of life. Health and wellness in mind, body and spirit are the foundations for living well, but there is so much more to a life well lived. Each week, through conversations with my guests, I'll be presenting topics that will help us all to live well and enjoy life. So join me as we discover new ways to become women living well after 50. Are you ready to start living? What are you waiting for? Let's get started. Thanks for joining me for another conversation with Women Living Well After 50. Do you know what your financial G-spot is? Well, today my guest is Vix Munro. She's an entrepreneur, author, money enthusiast and eternal optimist, and she's also a wealth coach. Now, her background is in economics, accountancy and pricing, and she has a career spanning over 30 years and has a master's degree in economics. She's been running her own business for the last 12 years, and Vix is passionate about helping women to create and build wealth, retire rich in every way. She believes we all have the ability to transform our money mindset, rewrite our money story, and become financially empowered. So I hope you enjoy this episode of the podcast, and let's go and join the conversation now. Welcome, Vix, and it's so lovely to have you join me in conversation to discuss a topic which I think is important to women over 50 especially, and their lifestyle and their future, but sometimes we don't actually put too much emphasis on it, and that's our finances. So it's lovely to have you join me today.
Oh, lovely to be here. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to chatting.
Yes, and you actually started life just across the ditch from us in Australia, but in New Zealand, but now you're over in London. So I'd like to go back to the time when you were 23, you've just stepped off the plane from New Zealand, you've arrived in London with only £30 in your pocket. So what was that like? I mean, that's so young. And was that the beginning of your passion and relationship with money and building financial security?
Yeah, it was quite scary actually arriving with £30. I didn't plan to arrive with that little money. I'd backpacked around Australia and Southeast Asia for 7 weeks before arriving in the UK. I'd also bought a camera and I'd taken a couple of flights when I should have been on the bus, but well, actually more than a couple of flights because I took 2 in Thailand. I think I took some in Australia as well. And so it ended up that I arrived with £30. And at the time, travel cards, so, you know, for the London Underground and the buses was £6. So for a week, so that went immediately. And I had studied accountancy at university, so it actually wasn't difficult to get work back in those days. So I got a job pretty quickly within the first week. So within a week or two, I had money coming in, and I was traveling with a friend who she got a job immediately. She was training to be a teacher, wasn't qualified yet. So she managed to get a job immediately and kind of get paid. So we were kind of sharing our money and making it work and sleeping on someone's floor that she knew. So I was really lucky. But actually my love affair with money didn't really begin then. I was working, I was earning good money in London, and I was in London to travel. And, you know, when you grow up in New Zealand, and I'm sure it's the same in Australia, Europe feels a long way away. And I really wanted to come to Europe and travel. And, you know, as a teenager, I'd drawn on the map my route I was going to take. So it's something I'd been passionate about for a long time. So it wasn't really until when I was about 36 actually that I really started getting into, which is 20 years ago now, that I really started getting into money. And so from 23 to 36, well, maybe to like 31, I was just spending pretty much everything I earned. But I also went back to university and I studied again. And during that time I did Spanish and economics. And then I went on to do a master's degree in economics. So I was also a student, but working during that time. And it wasn't really until I was 36, I'd already by that stage bought my first flat for myself. But it was when I was 36 that I suddenly thought, hang on a minute, what are you doing? You've got, you've had relatively well-paid jobs. You haven't got, apart from that flat, and I had actually borrowed the money for the deposit. So I hadn't saved the money for the deposit. I'd borrowed the money for the deposit. I bought the flat. It had gone up in value. And it was kind of like I pulled myself together. And I think the other thing that was key then is that my mother had died when she was 35. And I'd always kind of had a bit since then. I'm here for a good time, not a long time kind of attitude. And then suddenly I was 36. So I was older than the age she had been when she died. And I think it kind of, I don't know, it made me think about things a bit differently. I might be here for a long time and I want to have a good life. And it's when I started investing, and I then invested in my first investment property, my first rental property. And then it's been those last 20 years, which has really been my, improving relationship with money. Because prior to that, I was having a good time, spending lots of money, travel, and not really thinking about my finances. The money was coming in and it was going out.
And I mean, when you're young, you don't really think about those things, do you? It is all about enjoying life, but it's as you get older and then moving towards retirement that you start to think, oh my goodness, how am I going to fund all that? So I want to talk about the financial G spot, which really got me intrigued, and a little about why you started Money Badassary.
Yeah, okay. So I love this concept of the financial G spot. So it's that really sweet spot where you have enough, where you're making enough money to have a good time and live the kind of life you want now, whilst knowing that you're putting away money for the future as well. So it's kind of, life's a balancing act, isn't it? And particularly money, you've got this kind of, you've got your current self, you've got to look after your current self, but you've also got to provide for your future self. And it's a trade-off between the two. It's like, if I spend money now thinking I'm going to go on a really lovely holiday, it's going to be a luxury holiday, it's going to cost me £3,000. That's £3,000 I'm therefore not putting towards my future self. So the financial G spot is that place where you're really happy and comfortable with how your finances are. You're happy with the money you've got to spend now. You can have a good life, the kind of life you want to be leading, and you can know that you will be financially secure in the future. So you're not worried about, spending your golden years in poverty. You know that things will be okay.
Yes, because, and I think with COVID especially, we've all got a different view on life now.
Sure.
I think that I love that idea about, well, even calling it the financial G spot, that sweet point where, everything is in balance. And in other words, you can have it all, but not without a bit of planning, I would think. So I've said in my intro that, we're happy to talk about health and wellness. We do that all the time. But sometimes I think we just put finances in the too hard basket, and then something happens like divorce, job loss, or your business failure, and midlife can then become very challenging, especially financially for women. But you say it's never too late to start. So what are some basic thoughts for those women who are in midlife and they want to start getting serious about their financial security?
Yeah, and I think I just realized I didn't answer your earlier question, which is about, so I'll go back to that first, which is about how I and why I started Money Badassary, because that links with that as well. And I think, like, my goal is to help lots of women, millions of women ideally, become financially empowered, because we live in a world where there's a gender pay gap, but there's also a gender wealth gap. There's 48 million US dollar millionaires in the world, and only 10% of those are women. And when we think about the gender wealth gap, within that, there's a gender investment gap. More men invest than women. And men generally, men feel a bit more gung-ho about it. And then there's a gender we call it a pensions gap. I know you refer to superannuation, I think, in Australia, the same as New Zealand.
Yes.
But men have more money in their pensions or superannuation pots than women do. Yet women live longer than men. So, we need to be putting away more money for the future. And almost all women will actually need to be in control of their finances at some point in their life, even if they don't want to. And that's because either we live longer, the male partner might die, or because of divorce, as you say, relationship breakdown, midlife. So I think that financial empowerment is really important. And linked to this is, we're not taught this in school. I wasn't taught personal finance in school. It's something kind of I've learned along the way. And a lot of women are kind of anxious about it and, aren't confident in managing their money. So your question, is it too late? Definitely not. I mean, there's a Chinese proverb, goes something like, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago and the second best time is today. And the same is with your money. The best time to start planning or to start investing was 20 years ago, and the next best time is today. And of course, it would have been great if we'd all started investing 20 years ago and our retirement pots had been increasing, and we're looking at them now and feeling really happy. But it's never too late to start, because it's better to start today than to start in 5 years' time. And I think linked to that is that retirement is also changing. I mean, I don't know about you, but because I have a business and I love it, and I don't see myself just retiring in the old kind of definition, which is giving up work and do nothing.
That's right. Well, I'll be 64 this year, and I retired back when I was 57 because my husband is a little bit older than I am, so he was already retired and he was saying, come on, let's retire. And I did, and I tell you, within 6 months I was thinking, what the hell have I done? And even now at 64, I don't want to retire. And I think that's good these days, because you don't have to if you don't want to, especially if you're in good health, and it just gives you the purpose that you might want. And I'm not taking away from those women or men who want to retire and, they've got their hobbies that they want to do, or they might get in the caravan, as we say in Australia, and become grey nomads. But I think today we've got choice, and like you, my choice is not to really retire, because I'm finding so much reward, not even financially, but more personally, and growth with what I'm doing, and I'm happier. And I think that's important. So yes, as you say, we are, life retirement as we knew it is so different now. And that sort of brings me to a little point about, people say, well, how much do I need for retirement? And do you think about your lifestyle first, or do you think that you want, or do you think about how much money you're going to have first, or how do you sort of
good question.
people?
So I would say, think about your lifestyle first, about what you want. And it depends on, as you say, it depends on how much time you've got. Because if you're a woman who's 65 and wants to retire when she's 66, you have less options than someone like you who's almost 64 but doesn't want to retire in the old kind of fashion sense of what retirement meant, because you have far more options, because you will have money coming in from what you're doing. And I think there's also this kind of hybrid form of retirement now, which is maybe working part-time. You can make it work. But I would say, look at the lifestyle you want. So to start with, what's your vision for how your life's going to pan out? And you do need to have alternative scenarios, because our visions are often based on really good health, and things might change. So you do need to have, your main vision, but what are the scenarios if that's not possible, because you're making the assumption about really good health? And then if you're thinking about your vision for the future, it's like, the first question is like, at what age do you want to retire, and how many years is that from now? And then what do you want to be doing? I mean, is it a full retirement, or is it a hybrid retirement, or whatever? And so having an understanding of how you want to live your life, then how much is that going to cost? Now, it's difficult to cost that out, obviously, but I say, look at your current expenditure and then think, what are those expenses will you continue to have? I mean, if you're a homeowner and you have a mortgage that's going to be paid off in 2 years' time, then you'll know that you'll no longer have to pay for a mortgage in the future. So you can kind of come to an estimate of how much you think it's going to cost you to live in the future. And if you're someone who's planning to have a hybrid retirement and continue to work for 10 years part-time, you can factor that in as well. And then it's like, okay, so you've worked out how much it will cost, and it's like, okay, how much money do I need? And then they have this 4% rule, which is this assumption that you will take whatever your retirement pot is. If you take 4% each year, then the next year you take 4%, but you add on inflation, then that will kind of last you, if you retire around 67, it'll last you for the rest of your life. So in order to do that, you take your annual cost. So if your annual cost is, say, $40,000, you multiply that by 25, and that should give you a retirement pot. So if your annual cost of $40,000, this is a really kind of rule of thumb. And, you know, if you really wanted to know, you'd make it much more complicated and go and see a financial planner or financial advisor.
So I was just going to ask that.
And then you'd need a retirement pot of $1 million. So then it's like, okay, how much do I have now? How much am I currently forecast to have? If I'm not going to have $1 million, it's okay. What can I do to get more money to invest for the future? Do I need to increase my income, reduce my spending? Or am I thinking, no, actually, I need to go back and look at my vision and think, okay, I need to cut down some of these costs for the future. So you start with a vision, but it can be a bit circular, that you have to go, okay, I'm not going to have enough money. How can I bring more money in? Or how can I spend less now so I can put more money away? If that's not possible, okay, how can I cut costs? And it all depends on how much time you've got. I mean, if you've got 10 years, you're in a better position if you've got 2 years. But if you're also thinking, I'm on a hybrid retirement when I'm going to continue to work, then you're in a much better position than someone who wants to fully retire.
And there are a lot of opportunities now where you can have that hybrid retirement and work for yourself and work from home, or, you know, absolutely. I mean, there's so
work
many
from Bali.
That'd be, yeah, that's right. If there wasn't any travel restrictions at the moment, yeah, that's sort of changed a lot of things, hasn't it? But yeah, I think that money's, I mean, we all need money. And as we transition into retirement, it becomes a little bit more important to us, as we've said. But it's so easy to spend that money on little things, even with, you know, you're on Facebook or you're on the internet or the TV. Everything is geared at, oh, buy this now, get this instant pleasure. And, you know, and a lot of times it might just be, oh, get this, it's $20 or whatever, a small amount. And you go, oh, well, it's only that. And you click on it. And then all of those only that purchases certainly add up after a while, don't they? So, you know, then our savings get eroded. So I know on your blog, you've got to post 40 easy ways to save money. And I wondered if you could give us at least, say, 5 of your top tips on how we can save money starting today.
Okay, but first of all, I just want to really pick up on that point about how we can easily waste money, because I put a post on my group or my Facebook page the other day, and it was basically, how easy is it to waste £5,000, or it could be $5,000 per year? And it is daily spending, unnecessary daily spending of, I think it was £13.70. It was £13 something. I can't remember off the top of my head, which actually is quite easy. I mean, for you, like how to waste $5,000 a year is $13 something a day.
Yeah, and a couple of cups of coffee, and, you know, that sort of thing. It's amazing how you know, the coffee culture is quite big out here now. And you've got all these little coffee places set up. Even when I go running, they're dotted along the way, and you see people buying them. And I often think to myself, oh, I wonder how many you've had. How much is that going to cost? And it is surprising that it doesn't take much to spend $10 or $20 a day.
Yeah, exactly. And when you think about it, there's 365 days in the year, and that becomes, you know, $13 something a day becomes $5,000 in a year. And when I tell people that, people are kind of horrified, and I think you can see them like, oh dear, how much did I spend yesterday? You know, or even if you, as an exercise, say, okay, how much money did you spend yesterday? It's a bit harder to do the exercise with people at the moment, though, because, well, we've still got restrictions here in the UK, and those things are opened up. I mean, we're not going to international holidays, etc., and things like that. But right, so going back to your question, 5 top tips to save money. I think my first one is quite a broad one, and it is be a conscious spender. So be conscious of what you're spending your money on. Ask yourself. I always say, you know, we have needs and wants. Obviously, needs you need to spend money on because they're a necessity. But a lot of our wants, we don't need to spend money on. And often women can be emotional spenders, or that will make me feel good. So I think the thing is to ask yourself, and I do it in a kind of Marie Kondo kind of way, how much joy is this going to bring me? And if it's not an 8, 9, or 10, it's like, hang on a minute, why am I even thinking about buying this? So if you're somebody who gets a lot of joy from going out and having these coffees, then they probably, and you know, then they're a valuable thing for you to have. But if it's just, well, I'm just going along with it because, then I think cut, because I don't follow this philosophy of just cut everything and live, you know, as I said, I'm about this financial G spot, have a good life now and a good life in the future. But you probably do need to make some kind of spending cuts in order to make sure you put enough for the future. And that's why I say, be conscious and ask yourself that question, how much joy did this bring me? And if it's not bringing you joy, don't spend money on it. Then another way is to, well, also about spending, which is kind of a broader one, is to wait before purchasing. You set yourself a timeline. It could be 10 days, it could be 5 days, it could be 30 days. If you really want something and it's a want rather than a need, say to you, okay, you can have it if you still really want it in 20 days. And that's kind of a similar thing, but it's just taken a different way of thinking about it.
But it's a good point. This is difficult to do, but you get bombarded. You know, you might subscribe to some online shopping, for example, and then you get, oh, you know, this is on sale or that's on sale, with emails coming through. So what I've tried to do is, if I see something I like, I just put it in the wish list on their thing, and then I try to go away. And then as you say, if you leave it go for a little while, you think, I don't really need that, or do I really want it? And then 9 times out of 10, I haven't gone ahead and purchased it. So you're right about that conscious thinking about it, and then, you know, just waiting until you actually, you know, giving yourself some breathing space so that
and to make sure that you're not spending for emotional reasons, isn't it, rather than practical reasons. And that's I think that's the whole thing with money. There's a lot of emotions attached to money anyway, and it's about, okay, let's remove the emotions of why I think I need this or why I think I want it, and let's just be really practical about it. So that's 2. What else have I got? Oh, I think this is a good one, and this applies to me because I can be guilty of this. Cancel any subscriptions you're not using. It's very easy. I mean, if you sit down and go through your bank account 1 month and it's like, hang on a minute, and it could be, you know, groups that you've joined, or, you know, memberships, or, I mean, how many people pay for TV packages that they never watch? I mean, there's so many things that...
Well, say gym membership, any direct debit, you know, like, it's great having electronic banking, but, you know, we've gone away from the cash, you know, using cash so much, but especially here in Australia, but you'll set up a direct debit and then you forget about it, and you're right, you know, you need to have a look at where your money is going in those sorts of subscriptions and memberships, because some people I know, and I'm guilty myself, that you subscribe, let's say the gym, and you think, oh, it's only $15 a week, and you go, and then after a while that novelty wears off and you don't go to the gym as much, but you don't actually cancel the debit, and it just keeps going. So that's a good point.
And gyms, I've seen some statistics from gyms that something like only 10% or something like this, only 10% of people who pay to be a member actually go to the gym over the long term. So it's like 90% of the members of that gym are paying and not going regularly. So it's crazy, isn't it? Yeah. And then my number 4 one is plan your meals, because I think it's very, I mean, I'm guilty of this as well sometimes. I just go to the supermarket and think, I'll get that, I'll get that, I'll get that. I don't think about, we'll eat this day, we'll eat this the next day. And although I have actually been better over this last year with COVID, because what I've been guilty of in the past is buying lots of food for the supermarket, maybe thinking, oh yeah, I'll have that, and then going out for dinner. And then because in this last year, it's been much more difficult to go out for meals and things like that. So I am actually home to eat the food like all day long. So if I don't eat it one night, I can have the next day for lunch. Whereas when I was maybe driving to a meetings or something, I'd be having lunch out and then going out in the evening. So I think plan your food is a good one. And I've certainly been much better than that over this COVID period. Then another one, which is a bit like your wish list, is leave your credit card at home to avoid temptation. Because I don't know about you, but I hardly carry cash. I don't carry that much cash around with me these days. And so if you don't take your credit cards, if you just go, well, I'll just go have a look and see if there's anything I like. It's a bit like online shopping. I'll put it in my wish list. And I think that could be a good one as well.
Yeah, that is good. So with your business, tell me a little bit about what you do. You have women clients predominantly, or
yeah? So basically, what I do is I'm a wealth coach. So it's a relatively new business. I have another business which is economics, and I also have some properties as well. So I'm a wealth coach. So what I do is I'm basically, I do one-to-one coaching, and I'm about to start some group coaching programs as well. And my focus really is on women creating and growing wealth. And the way I look at it is there's really only two ways to create and grow wealth. One is through a business, through owning and creating and owning and investing in a business. And that's a legacy business. So a business that you would be able to either leave, so you're leave to members of your family. So that's kind of generational wealth, or a business that you could sell. Whereas a lot of people have businesses like me, for example, which is more a lifestyle business. So it provides an income and a lifestyle, but the business is based on me or you or whoever it is. And it's not the kind of business you can sell. So unless you have a legacy business, the only other way to create and build wealth is through investing in assets, whether that's property, stocks and shares, precious metals, bonds, etc., cryptocurrencies, whatever are the two key ways to create wealth. And if you look at, I was going to say, in the UK, we have this thing called the Sunday Times Rich List, which comes out every year. And you look at who's on it. Most of those people, their wealth has been created through a legacy business. So that's a big business that's kind of sellable.
I hadn't actually... Yeah, I hadn't actually thought about it in those terms, about having a legacy business or a lifestyle business.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting, actually. And I like the idea of you having the workshops and group sessions for women, because I think that you, as well as one-on-one, you get that, you can always hear other people's experiences and learn as well from them. So that's a great idea. I was thinking of something else which has just escaped me now, but that's okay. So you've also authored a book, or?
So I've authored a chapter in a book.
Yes.
The book's called Inspirational Woman of the World, and I wrote a chapter in that. My chapter is called A Balancing Act, and it is actually about my financial G-spot. So that's actually what that chapter is about. But I've also written, I have the first draft of my book written, which is about money. It's kind of a woman's guide to becoming financially savvy. And I'm currently editing that, but I'm hoping to have that book published later this year.
Oh, excellent. Well, what I'll be doing is putting all your contact details in the show notes so that people can get in touch with you and follow you on social media, and also chat with you for your one-on-one coaching if they would like to. The other thing before I go on to my last question is, I've just been thinking, what do you think about, you talked about having, a bit of a plan, and with the G-spot, I'm assuming that you can have like your play money that you can spend as well as your saving money. So it's a good place to start. Like if someone wanted to start today, is a good place to actually get their bank statement and just write down what they've spent their money on the last
Oh,
month,
absolutely.
say.
I mean, that's, yeah, kind of doing your own little, you can do your own little financial audit.
Yes.
You can either go back a month or 3 months and look at everything that's going out and ask yourself that question. Do I need this? Was that a good buying decision? Because sometimes, you know, this whole thing I talk about has been a conscious spender, so that you ask yourself that question, you know, does this bring me joy? You can do it after the event. Obviously, you can't change it, but it's kind of the way you learn, isn't it? So, you know, how much joy did that bring me? Oh dear, 5. Oh, that's not very good. Okay. Note to self, don't spend money on things like that in the future. So if you just do that exercise, that can be a good exercise. See what you can cut. I think, you know, when I'm talking about, you know, investing for the future. So if you don't have a legacy business, then you need to invest in assets to create or grow wealth. And then what you need is money to invest in these assets. So in order to get that money to invest in assets, you need a net surplus. So you have income coming in and you have expenses going out. And I'm talking about personally rather than your business, because your business pays you an income. And then that surplus, that net surplus, is what you can invest. So if you need to invest more money, you need to increase that surplus between your income coming in and your expenses going out. But there's 2 ways you can do that. 1, by increasing income, and 2, by decreasing expenses. Obviously, you could do both as well, which is even better. And then you've got a bigger investment pot that you can then invest into assets for the future. So it's just a way that you can start thinking about, okay, if I want to invest more, what expenses can I cut? So if you're looking through your bank statement, that's focusing on the expenses you can cut. In terms of bringing in more income, well, if you're an employee, okay, you could ask for a pay rise. It's a bit more difficult as an employee because there's more constraints, but you could take on a side hustle. You could look at other ways to bring in income. But if you run a business and if you say, okay, I want an extra $10,000 or £10,000 a year, then you need to ask yourself, okay, what product can I sell that's going to bring me in an additional $10,000 per year? What product? How many of them do I need to sell? And then you can think of it that way.
Yeah, I know you were talking about the bank statements, and I know our credit card on the app I've got, it will actually show me the different categories where I've spent money over the year, over the month or the year, whatever. And I'll look and I'll go, okay, you know, maybe a little bit too much on that one this month. But I think you've got to take responsibility as well, don't you?
Absolutely.
I mean, we can say, oh, we haven't got money, or, you know, I wish I had more money, but really with anything in life, the responsibility has to stop with us, doesn't it? Because we're the ones that are spending that. And I think it's important to, if you want to go to that next level of financial security, to get advice, to go to a professional and go to someone like yourself and have a chat about where you're at, but do your homework first, I suppose, like we've just said about doing a little audit and see where am I now. And I think the other thing is we have as women, as you say, we're living longer, or we might get divorced, or something might happen. We need to understand our own financial situation.
And that's what I'm all about. I'm all about financial empowerment, about taking control of your money, not letting it control you. And, you know, one thing I talk about is know thy numbers, you know, one of like the first commandment, and this could be in business or personal. And one thing I do advocate is to keep your business finances separate from your personal finances. I mean, here in the UK, if your business is a limited company, it's easy to do because you need to have a separate business bank account. But often I see women who are like sole traders or partnerships and they don't have a limited company and they just put it all in their personal bank account, and then it all gets mixed up. And I think it's very important to keep them separate. You run a business, then your business pays you, the individual. And that's kind of like how I talk about a lifestyle business anyway, is that the business provides you the lifestyle. So keep your finances separate and know your numbers. And if I say to people sometimes, how much money is in your bank account? No idea. How much income did you earn last year from your business? No idea. And, you know, we need to take control and we need to be more aware of what's going on.
That's a really good point. And I think it's like any other part of our life too, isn't it? We're responsible for all areas of our life at the end of the day. So it's up to us to be informed and to really understand what we're doing and where we're going. So it has been lovely chatting to you today, Vix, and I would just like to ask you one more question, which I ask all of my guests. And because I'm aligned with health and wellness in all areas of our life, I wanted to ask you, what does being a woman living well mean to you?
Okay, and because I'm a wealth coach, I'm going to answer that in a different kind of way. I'm going to say it's been a wealthy woman in all ways. And when I think about wealth and the definition of wealth, it's not just about money. There's financial wealth, which is about money. There's time wealth, which is freedom. There's physical, mental, emotional wealth, which is health. There's social wealth, which is relationships, and there's spiritual wealth, which is spirituality. So I say it's about being wealthy in all ways, which encompasses all of those. So it's trying to have the best of everything.
Well, that's a great answer. And that's the way I feel about living well. I mean, people obviously say, oh, well, that's about your health, but there's so much more to a life well lived, I believe, and that includes the answers that you've just given. So that's great. So as I said, it's been lovely to have you join me today, and I will put all your contact details in the notes section. And for those of you who have been listening, I hope you've enjoyed the conversation I've had with Vix today and have some tips to take away. And why not do that financial audit today before you do anything else? If you've enjoyed the subject and topic, share it with a friend, because I know that they'll benefit as well. Give us a like and comment, and remember to live well and enjoy life, and we'll see you next time. Thanks again, Vix.
Thank you. It's been great.